Hey guys, back with another YouTube video. Today it's going to be a review video and a collections video. Now, those who may remember, my good friend Shawn gave me all these Mora knives, and at the time, I did not know, I was aware of Mora, but I never really had any of their knives, so I really couldn't say, hey, is it bad quality, is it good quality? From what I always hear, they're good quality. I've never really heard a bad thing about Mora, and so basically, I took one of these and was actually using one for a while. And I actually used the green one because that is my personal favorite. And what I did with this is basic stuff that I do with my 110 and 119. I carve wood with it. I do food prep with it. I use it for all kinds of small tasks. I carve little chunks of wood off. Like let's say, let me get a random knife real quick. Like, let's say there was a small little wood burr right here, and I couldn't get that with the belt sander without ruining the blade. So what I would do is I would take this and just chop it off just like that, and voila. So, and I actually used one of these. Let me go get it real quick. I almost forgot. I actually used this exact Mora knife to carve this handle on this Bowie knife. And this originally was a solid chunk of wood, probably about that big. And I cut it down a little bit as much as I could with my hacksaw, but then I just went to town on it with because I wanted to see how good of an edge can this Mora hold. So I just went to town and just started carving with it, carving the handle down to my favorite shape, and then got it down to almost the exact shape I wanted. And then I just hand sanded it, yada yada yada. So I'm really impressed. And when I was done with it, I did the paper test and it held its edge almost perfectly. There was a few spots where it was dulling out, which is typical. And I mean, I was just going to town carving this way, carving this way, carving this way, carving in certain areas. I mean, I will admit, these make awesome carving knives, which is what another thing Mora is known for. And this particular one I used for right about a week, and I kept on using it. This stays on my workbench or in easy grabs because it's a small blade. It's got a good grip to it. And I wouldn't call it a very thin blade. It's got a decently thin blade. The only problem I have with this is it does dull relatively quick. Like, let's say I was carving this handle and I accidentally struck the aluminum guard. Of course, it would dull the edge. And on a buck 110, it doesn't do that. So, that little bit of a problem, but it wasn't that hard. This edge is super, super thin. So what I was easily able to do was just to get my sharpening stone and fix the edge, and voila, got it back to the way it was. So my review on these Mora knives is they are awesome for the money. Like if I recall, these are between like $15 to $20. I mean, that is pretty good for a knife that's not made in China or any of that junk. It's made in Sweden, carbon steel. I mean, it's a great knife for the price. So I would definitely recommend this. If you can't afford a buck knife, I do actually recommend this. And like I said, I had never had any of their Mora knives, so I really couldn't, review it right. But now that I do have one, I've used it and a little bit abused it. So I can definitely say without a doubt, I do recommend these to anybody who wants a decent fixed blade that's not expensive. And thank you again, Shawn, for giving me the opportunity to review these. And I will admit there was things I had forgot to show in the video. Some of these were corroding. If I recall, it was this one. Get it out and I should be able. Yep, it was this one. This one was a little bit corroded right here where the plastic meets the blade, which is typical because these are high carbon steel. If you let it get wet, it will rust. So I always say keep your tools clean because they'll last longer. And the spare green one that I already had, I actually gave that one to my dad and he loves it. So I can always say, for the money, these are definitely worth it. If you can't afford a 110 or a 120 or 119, then I would definitely recommend one of these. And this is definitely up there with one of my favorite brands like Victorinox. And, of course, Buck will always be the king to me. But my favorite one as far as color goes is definitely this one. Because this one reminds me so much of Deadpool. I mean, come on, you see this, you would instantly think this would probably be on Deadpool's duty belt. I mean, it would just be right there on his hip and he could easily draw it. And I mean, otherwise than that, I've seen people use these as far as for fishing, for gutting small animals. I mean, they hold their edge. That's the main thing I'm impressed with. because I have had plenty of cheap knives over the years where you just carve one little chunk of wood and the entire knife dulls. These actually hold their edge if you're a wood carver. And another thing I should say is I used one of these when I was doing a leather handle because in certain areas of the leather handle, I couldn't actually cut it with a belt sander. So I have to use a knife. So I figured I have this, I might as well try it. And it sliced through the leather without a problem. I mean, this thing cut clean right through it. So like I said, for the money, they are definitely worth it. I can see why Mora has such a good reputation. I've heard nothing but positive things about them. Like all my buddies, Dutch Bushcraft Knives, they use this brand all the time, and I can see why. They're very good and very high quality for the price. And like I said, I can't say much more about it. And I do plan on modifying this one a little bit. And that's what I would love to do is put a lanyard hole right through it so that way I could put a lanyard on it. And if I was to take this backpacking, which I do plan to do sometime when I go camping, I will probably put a lanyard or a steel ring on this so I can hook a keychain to it or something like that on it. Now, the only one I would love to have is the one that has this color on the handle, this nice hunter orange that a lot of people are very used to. I would love to have one of these that has that nice bright orange hunting color. So, anyway, that's my review on Mora. Definitely worth the money. I highly recommend it, but I do not, and I repeat, do not recommend batoning with one of these. I've seen plenty of videos of what happens when you baton with one of these. With these being a very thin blade, and of course having a stick tang, if I recall, the stick tang's probably about to right here. And if you baton with this, you can take a good lucky guess of what's going to happen. This is going to break. And you can go on YouTube if you want, and you will see a video of a guy who breaks one of these constantly because you don't baton with stuff like this. And Mora probably even tells you, don't baton with it. So, anyway, for the price, they're so worth it. But as beater knives, do not baton with them. If you're looking to carve with it and have a nice EDC fixed blade that is great for the price, then I do highly recommend them. Thank you very much again, Shawn, for allowing me to review Mora's quality. And I hope you've enjoyed. And as always, stay sharp and keep collecting.